So I figured we'd do a shop tour because I've never really done one, and I have sort of a unique shop in that it's kind of small and compact and very minimal. And I don't typically use the standard tools that most guitar builders use. So maybe this is interesting to like 3 people out there, but let's go ahead and get to it. I'll give you a quick little tour of the shop. Come on. So this is my bench, and I've had this bench since day 1. I built it. It's, it's pretty sturdy, it works. I got the stool much later, and I really love the stool. I sit, like I don't stand, and it's got a nice padding on there. So that's the way to go. And the other really cool thing about my bench is I kind of came across the idea of using yoga mats really early on. Yoga mats are really cool because they're very soft and they're absorbent, and they're also just really good on guitar finishes, so they don't scratch or scuff or abrade anything that you're working on while you're working on it. And the other really interesting thing about yoga mats is they just happen to be the exact same width of a bench. And all I have to do is I have to cut the sides. So I just cut the ends off and I end up with these extra strips that I can use for other things. So this is a custom printed yoga mat, and I'm usually on camera. I have an overhead camera here so it picks up the logo, and it's double-sided so I can print on 2 sides. And if you needed to, you could print 2 different things on each side. Cost is the same. So this is my favorite tool really for the bench because 90% of the time I'm not actually doing something rough, right? It comes off the CNC and now I'm doing my fine work, and I need to have something soft for the bench. But yoga mats, you heard it here first. I have 2 little LED lamps here. This one, and then this articulating one, which I can twist and spin and maneuver on the little mechanical arm however I like. This by far is my favorite lamp. I will be getting rid of this one and replacing it with another one of these here. These are awesome. I want to put it on the other side of the bench. So I have 2 of these articulating LED lights, and you can see I can get pretty low. So if I need to get real low, I can do that. If I need to go real high, I can do that. And I can twist this. So if I'm doing sort of like, the level beam on the neck, I can see if there's any light leaks, or if I can see if there's any light leaks on joints. So this is fantastic. This is really the way to go here, and I dig this a lot. And it stays in place too, wherever you put it. Keep my most used tools over here, and it's just a little metal or stainless steel cup. And so clearly, I have a ruler here. This is in metric. I do everything in metric, and it's just a little stainless steel straight edge in metric. And then I need to have my very nice heavy mechanical pencil. I use the rot ring pencils. So I've gone through every single mechanical pencil you can think of. Really, I have. And I like a lot of them, but they all felt like plastic. Even some of the aluminum ones were, metal, they still feel like plastic. This feels like a tool. It feels heavy, it's got weight to it, it's got some girth. It's got this like knurling here, like real knurling. It's also like a hexagon, so it's not round, so it doesn't roll off the table and you get a good grip on it. My favorite pencil, I know everybody's got their own opinion on pencils, but this is my favorite. Rot ring. And then I have my scalpel. This is something I use almost on a daily basis. I need to have Sharpies. So I have the thin, the super fine Sharpie, and the thick Sharpie. Those are my go-to. And then of course I have my eraser. So there's probably a lot of opinions, right, on which erasers are best or whatever. And I don't care about which is the best. I just want one that works. And so I tested out quite a few, and this is the one that actually erases pencil marks on wood. It doesn't leave anything behind, anything. So this is my go-to. Keep my rotary tool over here. So this is on one of these like flexible extensions, and I have it just hanging there off the bench. So really easy for me to do polishing of frets or anything really I need, mostly just polishing frets. I have this little guy here, which is sort of a power strip, but it's a power strip that also has the USB-Cs. So I can power USB-C things right off these little ports, but I also can like plug in things that I need, like my lamps and then anything else I'm using on the bench. When I'm on camera, that's my camera stand. So it's right there on the window sill. There's a clamp and I can extend it up and down, and that's where I put it. So what I want when I'm filming is to have as much separation from the subject, me, to the background. That's my key light. So it's the main light, and it's 100% diffused, and that's what you want. You want a diffused light so there's no harsh shadows. If you can see a shadow line anywhere, then you're not lighting correctly. It's got to be diffused and it has to be soft. It has to contour around your face. On the other side is the fill light, so this is a much softer light, and it's just to fill in the shadows on the other side of my face. And up there is the hair light. So this is also something that helps separate the subject from the background, so it does sort of illuminate or casts a little bit of light on the hair of the subject. And I also have my overhead cam stand, and this is also articulating, so I can move it up and I can move it down out of the shot or down as close as I want to the bench. So it actually extends really, really far. So as I'm working, this is my view, right? And I don't have any tools on the wall. All my tools are essentially in drawers. And as you can see, if I pan to the left, I have quick access when I'm sitting on my stool to my drawer. So I can grab the most used tools here. And then also on the right-hand side, if I'm sitting on my stool here, I have access to the drawers here of my most needed used tools. This is where I keep my files, and I'll show you all this stuff in a bit. So I don't want to have anything on my walls, no tools on the walls. I want it just to be this beautiful white drywall all the way around, and everything's tucked away and in its place where it needs to be in my drawers. And I know there's a lot of debate about things like if it goes in a drawer, it's where it goes to die. I don't believe that. All my stuff is exactly where I need it, and I put it back when I'm done using it. So this is one of the cheapest ball bearing drawer slide things you can get here in the States. It's a Yukon brand. It's got this really cool, very slick wood top. And this makes it great for like photographs too. I can take photographs on this wood and it looks fantastic. I have my gecko blocks here that Gio and Todd sent me, and this is where they live. This is my remote control for my AC and heater, and I have my incense over there. So I started burning incense in the shop. I know that's kind of weird, but I did it for the sensory experience. So we're using our hands a lot. We have all this kind of tactile thing going on with our hands. We're listening to music most of the time, maybe, right? And then this is just adding another sensory element. And I don't burn it very often. It's just for a few seconds, just to kind of like, you know, smell it in the air. And I think it's awesome. I don't know, kind of weird, but cool. So when I'm sitting on my bench, this is the big drawer here. I dig digital calipers. I pretty much use them all the time. So that's right here where I need them. And then I also have my calculators. I like these big chunky calculators. I buy them at the thrift shop because no one wants these anymore. And I got this for 50 cents. It's a Texas Instrument from, I don't know, the 80s or something. And I really like the chunky buttons here, but it's just for me to like quickly do calculations and math, because like, if I asked you what's 37.5 divided by 2, you don't know the answer. Don't pretend. I have to actually like make sure I do that math, right, correctly. So I love these big chunky guys, and I have a bunch of these and just pick them up real cheap. And then obviously I have all the other guitar stuff in here. So I keep my radius fret wire jig thing here. Various other tools, shears, which I always use. This is your 35-degree, 90-degree file, and this is specifically designed for stainless steel frets. So this file is harder than stainless steel. And I use this one, and I got this from the Jescar site a while ago, Summit brand. On this side, I have the Stumac fretting saw, which I never use. I have some engineer's squares in different sizes, way over here, which I use a lot. And I have my Stumac fret kisser, the Crimson stuff, so the Crimson fretting hammer, the Crimson file, the Crimson three-sided file, which I used to use for crowning frets. I don't use it anymore. The Crimson setting stick, my own setting stick that I printed. One of these magnetic pole things for pickups. I have various digital meters and gauges. I have the Crimson fret rocker here. The Crimson protractor, which I never use ever, but I have it. So this is the best kept secret in guitar building. This is the Fret Guru Precision Setup and Evaluation Gauge. And what makes this special is this tip right here. So this is all the same thickness until you get to the tip, where it actually narrows down to be so thin it can fit in the nut slot of a high E nut. And so this is how you actually determine your nut slot depth. I don't use any other tool for nut slotting except this. So it sits on your, first and second fret. You put that tip into the slot, and if it's like parallel, like that, then you're good. If it's not, you got to keep slotting and keep filing. This thing speeds up the process crazy, and I use it on all my setups. This is the best kept secret. Don't tell anyone. And of course, this is the 3D printed fret holder that I designed. And I also have the Fretalizer tool, the little tool for like your string winding that you can put on your drill. So these are some cool tools that I picked up. These are the rocket sockets. So these are specifically for like your volume, toe knob, and tuners, where you have those little nuts and you need to turn them without kind of scuffing or scraping or slipping, right? And hurting your actual guitar. So this comes in a variety of sizes. They're just basically like sockets, but they have the wings on them, right? So you can easily like twist and turn them. And I thought these were cool. You can probably 3D print these yourselves. I just bought these, but this would be a great project for someone to just kind of 3D print. Now in the far back, I have the fret shield that I picked up, my Crimson sanding beam, and I have the long L beam from Music Nomad. So this is the one for like baritones, much longer. I guess you could use it on a short scale bass too, but I bought this for the baritones. You can see it's much longer. And then I have the Crimson slotted beam here. Then I have the under the string fret leveler also. You can see how much stuff you can fit in these drawers. It's pretty crazy. And then I have one of these precision ground, I got stuck on there, straight edges. So I know that this is perfectly flat, perfectly level, and I can kind of use this when I need it. Obviously we have the fret clippers, the StewMac fret tang clippers. This one I picked up from the Jescar site a long time ago, and it really does help clean up the fret ends. So it's basically built where it has like these grooves where the frets sit in, so they're kind of round, and then you can kind of clip, and it clips it from the tang part down. These are remarkable for really cleaning up your fret ends. This is a Summit tool, model UN whatever. And I picked this up on the Jescar site years and years ago. I don't think they sell these anymore. And then another smaller flush clipper. So you can really fit a whole bunch of junk in these drawers, and you can be as tidy as you want or not. And I just basically keep everything in here. I don't need anything on walls. So my next drawer is where I keep all my CNC end mills. These are all the end mills, and there's nothing fancy here about the organization. So this section here is for aluminum. This section here are for wood. These are the 1/8 inch bits, and then these are the 1/4 inch bits for wood. And then this is for acrylic and engraving. A frets stuff is over here, and just kind of a variety of other things. So nothing fancy, but I do have pretty much everything I need to build guitars right in here. And then the next drawer is where I keep all my CNC clamps. So I use these aluminum clamps that have like this rubber. And these are really neat because it's a soft aluminum. So even if your CNC machine accidentally hits one of these clamps, it eats right through it. So like you can see, there's a good example here where the CNC just hit that and just chews through it. And it's really soft. So and here's another one. So obviously, like sometimes you hit the clamps and you want a clamp that's softer than your end mill. That way it doesn't really cause too much damage. These are the locating pins I use for double-sided milling. So these top right drawers where I keep all my drill bits. And I just have them in here, some step bits, and then some of the bits that I use most often for like side dots and stuff. Router bits are in here, so like round over things, pattern bits, reamers, and then my metric bits are back here. The next drawer is where I keep all my super glues and epoxy things. So all my super glues are here. These are just your standard. Everybody's got the Starbond super thin stuff, which is I use a Starbond black, everything. It is the same stuff everybody uses. The StewMac white is down there too. That's a really good super glue. And then glue gun, all the little ends you need for like super gluing, right? Those little things. And then I have epoxy mica powders back here, epoxy glitters, epoxy alcohol inks, accelerator for super glue. So all the gluey stuff goes in here. I do have a couple of other things that I just couldn't fit anywhere else. And then this guy down here is for razor blades, scalpel blades, razor blades. Look, I have some electrical tape, some wire, gloves, And then a lot of incidentals like dot stuff, shims. I keep all the shim stuff for next here. So those are my bone nut blanks. In the bottom drawer is where I keep all the heavy stuff that I don't use terribly often, but big things like the jigsaw. I have the angle grinder. I have the oscillating saw. I have the just standard orbital sander. They fit all in here, just like that. Then with the big drawer on the right, a lot of incidentals. My surgical tubing. I have my rotary tool bits here. A lot of jigs, bulk syringes for like glue and stuff. Got some tools here, goggles. And over here to the left of the bench, I have all the little drawers for electrical components. So the drawer up there at the very top is for tube amp components. So I do repair and build tube amps. I don't usually film that because they don't do so well in terms of like YouTube analytics, but I do love to goof around with high voltage. And then here are just your standard like pedal components. So I do build pedals. So everything you need for resistors and capacitors are here. And then everything in the middle is where you see like guitar stuff. So I do have things like 250 pots, 500 pots, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of little cubbies to hide things away. There I have my test amp when I'm testing, you know, electronics. It's just a little Fender Mini Twin. The StewMac tape dispenser's here so I can reach over and grab it when I need it. And it's all sitting on a table that I have going all the length to the wall. So I do have another yoga mat here, blah, 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 blah. Who's even interested in this? I can't believe anyone's gonna watch it. No one's gonna watch this video. I have a really small shop, so I put everything in bins. So every single wet ingredient is in this tub. So this includes things like stains, oil finishes, wood glue, epoxy, anything that's wet, spray paint cans, like there's even some polish creams, and everything that's wet goes in here. I just think this is just nice and tidy. And now I do have to dig through this to get some of the things out, but I don't care. Down at the bottom, there's another bin. So things like veneers that are really small. There's a couple of like, you know, drop tops in there too. Basically anything that needs some kind of humidity control. I do have the humidity packets in here. And that's where it stays. So anything that's like good wood goes down there. This is my drill press. This is one of the first actual tools I ever bought. And I bought it because it has the exact depth you need to drill the string through ferrules on a Telecaster. So a Telecaster body can fit on here, and this is the right depth to get all the holes you need on a Telecaster body. Obviously I do everything in the CNC now, so this is just, you know, just for show, I guess. I don't really use it much for anything. Dig this little tiny little benchtop buffer, and you'd be really surprised. I mean, anything from like nuts to bolts, hardware, I mean, just tiny little things. And then, I mean, these things are so inexpensive to get these, and you can swap them out really easy. And so I really like this a lot. All right, I have another drawer. This one rolls as well, so I can roll it and move it wherever I want. And this has basically things I need, like my files. All the files that I use are in here. And then all these kind of like filing gizmos are in here. And on the second drawer here, I keep extra tape. More importantly, I have all my note taking. So I take a lot of notes, a lot. And it's mostly to-do lists, it's mostly measurements, but I've found that I really like to pick up these. I go to the thrift store and I just pick these up. These are just fantastic, and I love the look of them. They're so cool. Sometimes you can get them like this with these little cool little flap jacket things. And these are just killer. Look at this. I find these at the thrift store and they're just, I mean, it's so old school. Look at that. Oh, this is so cool. Little symbol. Anyway, I love these older notepads. Field notes are okay. I don't like field notes for two reasons. They use staples. And when you want to rip a page off, you know, everything comes apart with those staples. So this is, I think, an inferior product. And the other reason why I don't like field notes is the paperweight. I kind of feel like getting scammed on the paper, but whatever, they're still really good if you don't want to tear things out, because that's where they fail on you. But I love the old school stuff where you have the perforation. Like these were meant to be torn out. Like that's what they were meant for. I love that. That is where it's at. I do have a first aid kit. I, like you, probably cut myself on a daily basis in the shop. And so I just have the standard things in here because I know it'll get infected. So I have a lot of alcohol, and I actually have a whole other box of these alcohol pads and tiny little Band-Aids. really it's all you need to kind of keep going, just keep working. So surely you have a first aid kit in your shop, right? Surely. And then for the big drawer, I have everything nice and tidy. And I love these little plastic boxes. They just make everything so nice and neat. So for example, you just end up with a whole bunch of these Allen keys of different sizes. And I just started organizing them in here. Zip ties, I use a lot of zip ties. This is where I keep my multimeter. And then I love Sharpies and I love paint pens. So I have a variety of different colors of Sharpies and paint pens in here. And then the last one, here is where I keep, this is another vintage calculator I picked up. Check this out. This is cool. Vintage. It's got that kind of like red screen. Oh man, this is killer. I love these things. Carbon graphite reinforcement rods, truss rods. Here's the brass side dot stuff. A bunch of screwdriver kits. So I have this screwdriver kit, which is electric, and then some masks, the cocktail sticks, which we use a lot of this stuff, don't we? So in there I have my soldering stations, a little case for compounds, for polishing, spindle sander, but it's all squirreled away and compartmentalized and hidden, so I don't have to see it anywhere else. That's kind of the whole point. That little guy back there, that's my robot vacuum. That guy is cool. Every morning at 5 a.m., he cleans my floors. Then I come in around 6 in the morning and everything's nice and clean. It smells good too. Like just having a freshly cleaned shop where there's no like sawdust smell or dirt smell. Like it just smells good in here. I guess this is where all the magic happens. This is my CNC machine. This is the Shapeoko XXL. Man, I've done everything on this. I mean, if you've seen my videos, I've made an aluminum neck on this. I've done everything on this machine. It does the job. It's light enough for 3 people to carry it if you need to move it. So that's a good thing. So you just need 3 strong backs. And it doesn't take up that much space. I did build this bench for it. So you can buy this on Amazon. These are like, I don't know what is it, plastic. It's like extruded or cast plastic, and you just buy the 4 legs, and then you just get your 2x4s and you just zip, 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 and some plywood top. You got yourself a bench, and it can be any dimensions you want because it's just the legs. You can make it as wide, as long, as whatever you like. You're stuck with the height of it. What's the perfect height? Storage is beneath it. So all that stuff underneath there is scrap wood. Most of it is wood that I think I'll use in the next 6 months. On the left-hand side, I have another table with my 2 lasers. This is the X-Tool S1, and that's the WeCreate Vision 40. Air assists are over there, and they're all automatic. They turn on automatically, and then you can see the hoses for the air. And then I open up the door here, and then they point out. So even if I'm actually burning and cutting through wood or acrylic, I don't smell anything. It just goes out the door. Here's the metal shelf where I keep other things like my fret press, and then all my clamps. So those are the clamps I use most. These are some C-clamps here. There's more clamps here. I have spool clamps back here. That's my air purifier. So it's just your standard shop Fox air purifier. There's a filter in the back, and it can move crazy volumes of air in and kind of filter it all out to get all those fine particles out, because I don't want any fine particles. It's by the CNC, so I'll typically run it in tandem when the CNC is running. And I do have some dust extraction too. So that hose there hooks up to the CNC. You've already seen it before. I hook the hose up and it basically sucks up all the fine particles. A lot of the heavy stuff just falls, but that's fine. It's the fine particles that I want to capture so I don't have that floating around the shop. So underneath the laser table, I have my planer, which I use a lot, and I put it on some casters so I can roll it and then take it outside. That way all the mess happens outside, doesn't happen in my shop. Fire extinguisher, there's a chop saw under there that I never use, and then more bins. There's 2 other bins there that have incidentals. That's where tools go where they die. Like if I don't use a tool for like 6 months, it just goes in the bin. And then if it's in the bin for a couple of years, it goes outside and I'll just donate it. Underneath that table is my shop tube amp that I built. So it's got a really nice 12-inch speaker, and it's basically based off a Champ circuit. So I have a very nice tube amp in the shop that lives in here when I need to like test things and play guitar. So that's my shop, my tiny little shop where I get all my work done. Believe it or not, I can build guitars in this shop with the tools you just saw. It's mostly just a lot of computer work and a lot of CNCing. I don't have traditional tools or really use traditional processes. So for example, like I don't carve necks, like the back of the neck. I just have the CNC do it. I don't like, saw fret slots. I just have the CNC do it. And when you start thinking about the CNC, you can think, well, the CNC can do way, way, way much more than what you think it can do. You can use it as another tool. For example, it's now my jointer. I can use it as a planer, right? So all those traditional tools can nearly be replaced by a CNC. So it may look sparse in here, but that's just because that's the way I like things to look. Tidy and neat, minimal, nothing on the walls, everything kind of hidden and scrolled away. Hope you got something out of this, the three of you watching. Thanks for watching. Take it easy.